Welcome to The Route to Revenue, two entrepreneurs sharing the path to curbside cash flow. I'm Ben.
And I'm Mike. We're both founders of two successful recurring revenue businesses in the home services industry. And we've built our companies from startup to profitable and scalable operations.
This is the show for entrepreneurs serious about building sustainable home service businesses. Whether you're starting out, scaling up, or ready to move beyond trading time for money, we share proven strategies for creating predictable monthly revenue streams.
And while our expertise comes from the bin cleaning industry, the systems and principles we discuss work for any recurring revenue home service. Think lawn care, pest control, pool maintenance, and beyond.
Each episode, we break down real-world strategies for customer acquisition, retention, operational efficiency, and building systems that generate consistent income while you step back from daily operations.
Are you ready to transform your home service businesses from a demanding job into a profitable asset? This is The Route to Revenue.
Welcome to The Route to Revenue. I'm Ben McGee with Green Can Cleaner, and I'm here with Mike Walker from Spiffy Bin, and we are going to talk to you today about SOPs, systems, processes, and why SOPs are the secret weapon in trash can cleaning. So, Mike, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Yourself?
I'm doing well. So,
awesome. I think this is going to be a great episode. We've got a lot of good things to talk about. I know we had a little pre-planning meeting here, and there's a lot to go over. So I think we should just get started. What do you think?
You got it. So let me just set the stage a little bit. So first thing that I'm going to say, and you and I talked about this, and we talk about this constantly, it seems like, if your business doesn't operate when you're not there, then you don't have a business, you own a job. And the way to get out of that is through what we're going to talk about today. And this may be our most important episode for guys that are just starting out. Or, what's that?
Yeah, I said I agree 100%. I mean, and I've run into it, and so much of the business when you're starting is on your back that once you start to add people and whatnot, if you haven't got a system in place, even in your own mind, how are you going to train somebody to do that? And that's where I think it's critical.
I think, yeah. And the way to do that, I mean, you can go and train everyone individually, or you can have systems and processes and, standard operating procedures, which we call SOPs, that just everyone knows what they're supposed to do. And so, let's talk a little bit about why they even matter. I mean, we kind of set the stage, but let's look at why systems and processes matter. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, Mike?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the hardest things, again, starting the business is crafting these. But if you think about it from the standpoint, you're the owner and you're trying to figure something out, you've got a lot of stake in the game. So you're going to figure out the best way to do it. If you're an employee, oftentimes they're going to look at it and try to figure out the quickest way, or perhaps not look at it from the same light that you looked at it. What's best for the client. So having employees not to have to figure it out every time is going to save you time. It's going to save you labor. Every truck operating the same way. What does that do? It adds the ability to know what each truck, what processes it has, what systems it has, and how to handle those should something go wrong. Or if another guy has to take a different truck out, we'll say, it's always helpful to have the same truck. The result also ultimately is just fewer mistakes, less stress, and most importantly, a better customer experience, because they're going to get it the same way. They're going to get the service the same way, whether it's John or Jeff or Brad. They're all going to be the same experience. And that's what we're trying to create, I think, or at least systems and processes are trying to create.
Absolutely. So, the other thing that I'll say is, and we've written down SOPs. And as an example, a new hire, we just brought on another driver recently. And so Jordan, our operations manager, he has a checklist that he goes down. And so we know that person has been trained on each thing that they're going to need to do. Um,
Hmm.
and so it helps, not only does it help us when we are onboarding that new person, but it also helps to put them at ease because they
Hmm.
know that they've been trained and trained properly, and they know that they have all the tools. And then they can refer back to that manual and go, oh, look, I come across something that I haven't done in a month, but look, it's right here in the manual. I know I was trained on it, so let me just look. And they can find
Right.
it, and then they can accomplish that without having to call me or Jordan or whoever. Um, the other thing that it does is, you know, you and I both, and we've talked, this is another thing that we've talked about a lot, is we have a brand, and it's not just a job and it's not just a company, but we expect a certain standard of work. And SOPs allow us to set that standard and to continue to, I hate to use this word, but almost enforce that standard and to make sure that everything gets done. So, for us, I think that that's why we actually have the number of 5-star reviews that we do, is
Hmm.
because we set a standard and hold everyone accountable to it. So, um, what else? What are some other positives about having SOPs and why they matter?
We touched on it a little bit, but the consistency, and it also helps you onboard new hires faster. Depending on your job, I mean, our businesses aren't the most glamorous. We clean people's dirtiest, arguably their dirtiest, piece of equipment on their in their property. And to do that, sometimes we cycle through employees. And as well as I do, hiring's expensive, right? There's that old adage, you hire fast and or hire slow and fire fast. And not that we want to fire people, but if we are cycling through people because we didn't do a great job in the interview process, we need to find a way to onboard them consistently and repeatably, and just make them understand or help them understand what we're looking for, and then both of us are going to be better for it. They're going to enjoy their job faster. We're going to have more satisfied clients. All of those things are going to end up being positive for everybody, and more importantly, or equally importantly, it's going to end up costing you less because you've taken the time to create the systems and the processes. And when you're first starting out, after you've been out for 10 hours, the last thing you want to do is jump on the computer and try to figure out, well, what should my process be for this? And let me type this and, all that kind of stuff. What are you thinking
Yeah.
about that?
So I agree. One thing that we've started down the path of, and we're implementing pretty rapidly, is we're actually we're doing training videos. So, and then we'll have those up and accessible, and it's quite a project to do, but we're just at a point where it makes sense to do that instead of using pen and paper for everything. Um,
Mhm.
and the great thing about that is that, once we have these systems and processes in place, it gives those, whether it's an office person, a CSR, an office manager, or whether it's a driver, or
Technician.
even, Jordan, our operations manager, it gives them self-sufficiency. Having
Hmm.
systems in place lets them be self-sufficient, which then allows me as an owner to step back and focus on growing the business. Or, as we've talked about in other episodes, get some time off, go spend some time
Yeah.
with the family, or take some time for myself.
And I'll
And
be honest, Ben,
so
too. Oh, go ahead.
go ahead.
Oh, it's going to say, I'll be honest, my systems are not as advanced as yours. Like, we haven't gotten to that point where we're doing that. A lot of the phone calls do kind of come to me still. And I recognize that this is something that I lack in, and that I need to do a little bit better on. But I did have a nice little aha moment the other day. Was, something was going on. Driver couldn't find a particular set of bins. It was an HOA, a little complex. They were in two different locations. One was on a hiking trail, at the trailhead, if you will. And then one was at the pools. and the new driver couldn't find it. I thought we had them pretty well labeled in Jobber, but I guess we didn't. And so he reached out to me. I was on a call that I couldn't get off of because it was one of those, dependent ones. You got to be on it. And, just said, hey, shoot Carmen, our office manager or admin, a call and she can figure it out. So she couldn't figure it out necessarily, which is bad, right? But then she put a call out to our group chat. Now, the group chat, real quickly, Jason, one of our drivers, said, oh, yeah, it's at the pool and there's one at the trail. And then that solved it in what, 10, 15, 20 seconds, by the time it got worked out. But that's a system that we have in place because every morning we send memes or what have you. And, it would be nice to solve problems like that. And that actually solved the problem really fast and didn't require me to do it necessarily. So that is kind of a real life, instance where it helped out our business and got the driver going and didn't keep them, hung up at a stop.
That makes sense. And I think, to part of your point there, I think we're all in process of, and that's the thing is SOPs are a working living document. And so, I used to beat myself up and I'm going to, we talk about this. How do you create SOPs? Well, I used to think that I had to sit down and write a whole manual. But what I started to do is I looked at one thing and I took one thing per day or one thing per week if it was a bigger thing. And when I did it, I just wrote down the steps and that worked. And then I was able to, and other people were able to contribute to it and we were able to edit and modify. And pretty soon we had a document that is pretty comprehensive. Yeah. And now, as I said, the next step is to start doing videos and getting a video library done. But just start with the basics. What kind of SOPs do you have in place?
They say the best way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time, right? You don't have to eat the whole thing in one sitting. So, what kind of SOPs we've got in place? We've got the standard ones, ensuring that the driver notes, everything. What our goal is with the SOPs, or at least with our SOP with regards to our CRM, our customer relationship manager, is we want to be able to look at John Smith's account and know Andres wasn't able to complete it because of X or Y. We don't want to have to call Andres and say, hey, remember that stop, 82 stops ago? That you went to and what happened there? And, Andres doesn't remember. I remember stuff that happened 3.5 years ago, but I've got, again, a vested interest in this business. So, we as owners are going to remember things differently. So we've got SOPs for that, SOPs for the truck, SOPs for, making sure that, that problems or issues with the trucks, and they come up pretty rapidly, it seems, are noted. Where I want to get better is I want to get better with better checklists, better handling of customer issues when we're out in the field, if you will. Although frankly, they don't run into too many issues, but just, those kind of things. The one bad thing about being a small business is you don't have the SOPs. But one of the good things about being a small business is you've got the opportunity to emulate a bigger company. UPS, they can't have however many millions of trucks they've got on the road without SOPs. So there's a lot to be learned from some of these other bigger companies and instituting them. So how about you? What are some of your really good SOPs?
So we implemented a while ago a pre-route checklist, and I think that that's probably one of our most important things. And it varies day to day. So this started because every Monday morning, I want to make sure that, at least once a week, the oil gets checked in the truck and the tire pressure gets checked and all of those things. And so that's part of our Monday morning, pre-route checklist. And then, Tuesday, they do something different before they go on the route with, checking things and making sure that everything's working. But it makes sure that they have and I found this for myself. And at first I did this pre-route checklist and then I ignored it. It was for the other guys, you know. And what
Mhm.
I found was that I'd find myself out on a route and maybe I didn't have enough towels on the
Stickers.
truck for some reason, or,
Mhm.
you know, the
Stickers.
scraper. I'd messed up and left the scraper that we use on the lifter and drove off with it the day before. And here I am. So now I'm out there and I don't have what I need. And so even I go to that pre-route checklist and I use it every single day. And I fill it out and away we go. So that one I think is probably our most important. Um, then we have, you know, just starting the route and how we clean the cans, even to how, you know, controversial subject in our industry, we wipe the cans. Okay. We don't
We
dry
do
them,
too.
but we do wipe
We do
them
too.
out. And
Yeah.
I think that if you're not doing that personally, every time I'm in there wiping a new can and there's a spot where it's like, you know, there's a little bit of dirt, I'm like, that's the difference between keeping this customer for 5 to 10 years or having this customer for 2.
Mhm.
And I think that makes a big difference. So,
And I think
um,
it's not just in can cleaning, it's in any business. I think, you
absolutely.
know, so many times a lot of times we're trying to cut corners and efficiencies. And my theory, good or bad, is I never want to cut efficiency. I never want to make efficiencies at the person's house necessarily. So not wiping the cans, in my opinion, if I don't have my people head down in the bin, at least looking at the bottom or sopping up the water, then they don't have an opportunity to see that mist, that the soil, or they're going to spray it longer and they're going to use more water. But that also transcends into, lawn mowing. Maybe when you were mowing, you realized there was this branch that needed to be cut. And all too often, you get to the front of the house, you forgot about the branch. Now you remember it. Now you got to walk back there. The difference between great service and just okay service is making that trip back there. Did it take you more time? Yeah, but it's going to ultimately be better for the client. We have to do better than our clients can do, or they won't use us. There's no reason to use us. So,
Right. I mean, and on that same thing, I mean, the guy that comes and does my lawn, I noticed the other day, you know, they edge maybe every third time now. And
mhm.
does it need to be edged every time? Not necessarily, but do I want it edged every time? Yes, I do. I like to come home and see that. You know, that's why I pay for the services, because when I get home, my lawn is mowed and it's edged and it looks
Yeah,
nice. And I want that every time.
yeah.
So, um, moving on, let's talk a little bit about the different formats. So we've talked about video, we've talked about print. Um, Maybe it's as simple as just an audio note. I mean, just do a quick reminder on your phone or something like that and send it out. Um, and then
Communication
how do
methods
you
with your
store these?
team. Mhm.
Yeah. How do you store these? I mean, that's another thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, you're going to want some things on the truck. You're going to want some things in the office. You're going to want some things that in people's phones or on YouTube or what have you. So, I think having a physical binder in the warehouse is key. It's integral in being able to refer to it, and if because a lot of these repairs hopefully are happening at the shop. We don't want to get on site, and we've all done it, right? We've gotten to that first stop, and you get there and you go to crank it, and the battery's dead. Oh my gosh, what do I do? So now we have the guys when they first they start it. It runs for literally 3 seconds, and then they shut it off. All we care about is that it starts, right? Different things like
Right.
that. So having this playbook, the main playbook with most of the repairs that would be necessary in the shop is key. Should be on a wall, should be easily accessible, should be something that you walk by all the time. Digital copies, Google Docs or YouTube videos. I think those are great with links that are accessible again to your folks, so that they can watch it, because many people learn differently, right? Some people can read it and learn, other people hear it and learn, other people have to see it and or do it. So we want to kind
Right.
of to appeal to everybody, I think. Um, so
Right. Well, and then in the truck, I think, it seems like every time something goes wrong on the truck, you're in an area where there's no service. I mean, it'd be
Yeah,
nice to have this digital, but I also think that having a physical copy of the ones that pertain to the truck, not of everything, but the
sure.
ones that pertain to the truck and the route in the truck, I think is important. And then, you know, every time something changes, just go in and update it. It doesn't take that long. It's not that hard.
Yeah.
You update it. And then something else that I think is really important is to have a version date so that
Oh, I
everybody
like that.
knows, okay, this is up to date.
I like that a
You know,
lot.
just at the top or the bottom of the page, you know, when once you've written that SOP, say, here's when this was updated. And
Hmm.
maybe there's even a time, and we haven't done this, but I think that we're going to start implementing it. Maybe there's a time where we go through and just update the ones that haven't been updated for a while and make sure that it still fits what we're doing and how we're performing these things. So,
So it's a little bit of set it and forget it, but then it's a little bit of set it and review it, and I think
exactly.
that's what I'm hearing from you because things
Yeah,
change, right? Something that worked great when you had one or two trucks doesn't work as well with five or six trucks. And
exactly.
we know that, at least I know that having no system didn't work, worked okay. I mean, frankly, it works okay when you're the owner operator. You figure it out, but it doesn't get you home faster, that's for sure. Many a nights at 8 o'clock, you're at home, you're back at the shop, doing something that should have been done weeks prior, and you knew it, but you just let it
Mhm.
go. We all do that. Oh, this hose has been leaking. Well, it can drip for a little while till it explodes or what have you. So, those are
Right.
those are things that, and they never explode, like you said, they never explode at the easiest time or the best time. So, the version
Right.
date's key. I love that. I mean, that's why when you're on your Apple phone and it says, "What version are you on?" Oh, I'm on 20.2 or
Mhm.
whatever, and well, the
Yeah.
newest one's 20.8. I guess I missed a couple updates. So I think that's fantastic.
I'm famous
So
for that.
yeah. So once you've got this all squared away, you're not the only one that has to deal with this. How do you get the buy-in from the team? Like, oh, come on, Ben, you want me to do this now? Geez, I just want to go. I just want to get in, clean my bins, and get home. I don't want to walk around the truck and check blinkers and stuff like that. What do you do there?
So there's a couple of things that I'm going to say here. The first one is, like we've already talked about, this is a working, living document. And so, you know, involve the team in the process. And I think asking them to help improve this and help the next guy, not only does it involve them in using the SOPs because they're looking for ways to improve them, but it also helps to build that teamwork, which is hard in this type of business because,
Solitary.
whether it's this or mowing lawns or whatever, you meet at the shop in the morning and then you go off about your days. And maybe if you're lawn mowing or doing something like that, you've got a small crew, but it's only two, maybe three of you at the most.
Mm-hmm.
And then you come back to the shop and you're probably not getting there at the same time. So you've got like 10 minutes to really be a team in the morning.
Right.
And so I think anything like an SOP can actually help to build the team. And I think that that's one way that you get buy-in from the team is, hey, help the guy next to you, you know. And
Yeah.
it also involves the guy that's coming in new. I mean, our new driver, as we're going through training, if when we're doing this, there's something in SOP that maybe could be done easier and he sees that, I want to hear about it. I
Mm-hmm.
want him to speak up or her to speak up and say, hey, this is a better way to do this. And I think that that also goes to showing the team how systems and processes and these SOPs actually make their jobs easier, not harder. And I think as humans, we look at it and we go, oh, yeah, I don't want to follow the manual because that's hard. Well,
Yeah.
no, it's actually much easier if you do it. And there's been a lot of people involved in this process. So, um,
Yeah,
yeah, I
100%.
think,
I mean, if you think about it from the standpoint of, ultimately, if I'm not specing my truck and making sure I've got all the tools and items that I need on there, or I'm neglecting the hose that's dripping, or I'm neglecting this or that, when there's a blowout, next week, next month, or something happens with a valve, ultimately it's the team that's going to have to pick it up, right? That truck comes off the road. Why did it come off the road? Well, it came off the road because Sean didn't replace the hose or say that the hose was problematic until it was problematic. And ultimately then, instead of, your teammates having 35 stops, now they've got 45 stops because they got to pick up 20 more each or what have you. And so I agree 100%. And if we're talking about saving efficiency, yeah, we can save it by not drying cans, I guess, but we can also save it by keeping all the trucks on the road every day, because that's going to be your best efficiency, in my opinion, is not having a truck down and not having to move people and not having to disrupt client schedules, different things like that. And that's hard. I mean, that's super hard to keep all the trucks on the road every day. And, sometimes it's not possible, but you want to be the one that controls that. You want to say, okay, in 3 days, I'm going to get those tires changed before we have a blowout and, get it done when I can take it off the road on my schedule, not on the tire schedule, we'll say. So I agree.
Right. Yeah. So, another thing that we've implemented is, and we're a little weird. If a customer doesn't have their cans out, what do you do when you pull up? Well, it used to be that we'd send them a text message and then we'd move on. Well, now what we do is we send them a text message, we jump out of the truck, we go knock on the door, and we call them. And generally, at that point, somebody's going to bring a can out for us to clean. Mm-hmm. And so we've found that actually really helps us in getting those stops that we normally before wouldn't get, and we wouldn't get that revenue. The other step that we do is we had some cards printed that are door hangers, and it actually says, "I was here to clean your cans. We missed you. Here's the date, the time," and we hang that on their front door while we're up there. And so now we can charge that customers, and it's certainly in our terms and conditions that we can charge them. Our policy is to reschedule them. Right. But there are times where it's someone that is like, come on, guys, just put your cans out, and it happens every time. We have covered ourselves that way, and our SOPs help us to cover ourselves. And if it becomes a real problem, then we can, in fact, charge them for that. And through all of those steps, I feel like we've given them the opportunity and we've proven that we're there. And so, do you have something like that in Spiffy that you do that's come up?
Excuse me, exactly the same. We've got the little, you think of the UPS things when they went to deliver it. It says, "Missed you. We'll try again tomorrow." Well, we've got the same thing. Actually, I got one here on my desk. And, it's just got a picture of our truck across the top, and we've got like 4 different options that they can check. So no bin, no answer. Paint or liquid, not cleaned. Bins cleaned today is just a check mark. Sometimes, so the reason we have that one is sometimes we pull stops ahead of day. So we run on the next day system, but there's other days that we flip to today, and we're going to run there. So we want to indicate to them. So we just leave this on the bin when we roll them up. I mean, it should be obvious, but sometimes it isn't. What we're trying, bins are full. That's a check mark. Pulled trash and cleaned, because there's sometimes that we do pull the trash and we clean it. Thanks for leaving your bins empty. Again, you talked about that earlier about feedback from your client or from your staff. Well, that was one of the things Sean wanted. He goes, we got a lot of negatives here that we couldn't do. He goes, let's put a positive. So sometimes when he rolls them back, there's 2 bags of garbage right outside where the bins go. So, they did their part. They left them empty like we asked. He goes, let's make it so we can thank them by doing that. And then I've got another one that says, just spiffied your neighbor's bins. So while we're out there, we can just tag it and tag other bins that are nearby as an option. And then there's just a blank line. So, if we need to put something in there or whatever. So we have a similar thing. And, as far as not doing them, we're similar. On the monthlies, it's a little different. On the monthlies, we do charge. They know the routine. We've been doing it for how long for them. So we do charge if they don't let us know. Now, if they call and say, "Hey, we were out of town," whatever, no problem. We'll reschedule. Right. Bi-monthlies and quarterlies, we do, move to the next month.
Right. So, um, you know, I think the main point that I'd like to get across here is that um, systems and SOPs they're not about control. They're about freedom, actually. And in order to implement them, you've got to start small. You've just got to start with one process at a time.
Yeah.
And, make it, if your team's going to use them, it's got to be visual, it's got to be accessible, and it's just got to be part of their routine. And, you know, make sure that they know what to do without asking you. And that's when your business actually starts to be scalable and you can take a little vacation. So, Mike, what can our listeners do to implement this? What's one thing that they can do this week to just start down this road?
Well, when I send emails, it's not necessarily relatable, but it is. If I send the same email 2 or 3 times, I create a template for it in my email system, so I don't have to retype it every time. I would
Right.
think, the best thing is with your SOPs or your processes is find something that comes up a lot and just start with that. If it comes up a lot, it shouldn't continually be a question. But obviously, if it's coming up, it's going to be a question, maybe not for the current guys, but for your guys that start in 6 weeks and 6 months and 6 years. So come up with those things. The most impactful ones in any kind of thing with machineries is probably a maintenance schedule, keeping track of everything that happens on that. So when you change the oil, it should be monitored and, it should be recorded in there. When you change an unloader, when you sharpen the blades, when you need a new pump for a pool pump, whatever your business is, there's a lot of things that come up regularly, and having a system in place to record those and jot those down is going to help you. Because when you get to literally more than one truck or more than one item, you're going to forget, did I do that to 1 or 2 or 3? I don't know. And when you get to 10, forget about it. And UPS doesn't have some guy at the shop going, oh yeah, we did truck number 107346 and we did the oil on that. It's in their system. So, I think I've learned more from other businesses than I've learned from the can cleaning business, and I've brought things from other experiences. And I think that happens everywhere. And you can learn so much from some of these big dogs that have done it before. You don't have to recreate the wheel. You just have to adopt it, I think. And, and maybe tweak it. So
Agreed. So
just start with one, just like the elephant, right?
Start with one. Just like eating an elephant,
take the first bite.
Just do one SOP this week. Just build one. And it's like anything else. Once you get one done, you see how easy it is, and it gets easier every time, but you'll start doing it, and it almost gets addicting to know that, okay, I don't have to take a phone call for this ever again.
Right. And it doesn't have to be perfect either.
No.
Don't wait for perfection. Launch it and then tweak it. So
right.
Awesome, Ben. Well, this was a great episode. I know I've got some stuff jotted down here that I haven't done that you're doing, and I think that's fantastic. So I appreciate you.
Well, thanks, Mike. I appreciate it. And to our listeners and viewers, we appreciate you being here, and thank you very much. We'll see you next week.
Well, Ben, that's a wrap on another episode of The Route to Revenue. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love it if you would hit like, subscribe, and leave us old guys a comment about what we did well. And if we did anything wrong, can it and keep it to yourself.
If today's strategy sparked some ideas for your business, don't keep them to yourself. Share this episode with a fellow entrepreneur who could benefit from these insights.
Remember, building a recurring revenue business, it's not about perfection, it's about progress. Take one actionable step from today's discussion and implement it in your business this week.
Want to connect with us between episodes? Find us on Facebook or at our website. We'd love to hear how you're applying these concepts in your own home service business.
And until next time, keep building those recurring revenue streams and stay on the route to revenue.
The route to revenue.
Nice, Ben.